Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. This here is Portie's Garage, home of DIY, mostly geared to automotive, but here at Mick's, you never know what you're gonna get. So today, as we get close to the end of the year, 2024, we're middle of December, you can see the sun's out here in Michigan. It's actually a beautiful day, so I thought I'd bring some radio out, and let's look at some of the events that happened this year and talk about why do you need a ham radio, or a GMRS radio for that fact. What are some of the uses, and then look at the different types that we've got set up and talk about the pros and cons of each and what's important to consider before purchasing and using one of these. So let's dive into this, and you can see I'll talk about what I have here. I've got a small handheld GMRS right here. You can see TIDRADIO. That's the M111. I've got 3 different Baofengs here and another TIDRADIO. These are all 5, 8, or 10 watt. Sorry for the airplane right there. Then I've got the Radioddity. This is GMRS. This is, I think it's a B40, and it is a 40 watt GMRS radio, which you can connect to different antennas and power supply. Then I've got the Icom ID4100. It's a dual band, so we'll talk about that. Same thing, it's got the antenna connection, power supply in the back. And then down here, I've got a old Yeasu. This is an HF radio. So as you can see, I kind of have them set up order of not importance, but strength from signals that they can send out. So what are some reasons why you'd want to have a ham radio or a GMRS radio? And you know, a lot of them you have off-roading. I know a lot of people here in Michigan go off-roading, go in the woods, trail riding in the snow or summer, and it's always good to have some kind of communication that you can talk back and forth. You know, so that's always good. A lot of people say they want to use it for STHTF. I don't know if that's needed so much. If you think about it, I don't think we're going to have a zombie apocalypse. Some people want to have them ready for war. Maybe with the way things are going, that may be viable here. But I think the main thing is natural disasters. And we'll talk about North Carolina. So I think the 2 main reasons I'd think about are natural disasters, which you look at North Carolina, you have hurricanes also along the whole coast. You got earthquakes in California. So that may be something good to have, ultimate means of communication if the cell towers go down. So what happened in North Carolina, everybody's aware of that. The hurricane came up there, the disastrous flooding that happened. And I heard stories, there's actually a couple towns that they used ham radio, and there was somebody set up that actually had a repeater or maybe even HF, but they were able to communicate with different people in town using smaller handhelds up to one main point of contact, and they were able to get out. So that was actually life-saving. So, you know, if you're thinking about that, I think that's really important. Keep that in mind. These lower ones here, they're 30 bucks, 25 bucks. So you can get a couple of them pretty cheap, not very difficult to get involved with. You know, a lot of people talk about license. Let's talk about licensing for a minute. A lot of people say you don't need a license. When the shit hits the fan, I don't need a license. No one's going to come arrest me. You're probably right, but are you going to know how to use it? Are you going to know how far you can talk? You know, can I talk simplex a couple miles? Can I talk simplex just 1 mile? You know, you need to test these out. You need to practice and practice and practice. You know, this little handheld through the woods, GMRS, it went 3/4 mile to a mile. Clear line of sight, you could probably get 2 out of it. But how are you going to know that unless you have a license to actually use it? Practice. That's the same with these guys, about 5 watts, maybe a mile. Depending on if you're in a city with a lot of buildings, if you're in woods with a lot of trees that will actually block these. You know, these are mostly 2 meters, 70 centimeters, so they're more line of sight. So it's important to practice to know, can I hit the repeaters in the area? Where are the repeaters? Do repeaters have emergency power? So those are all perfect things that you need to figure out and practice, and that's why you should have a license. These 2 down here, GMRS, and I'm going to go over, this is 40 watts, so you can get out further, which is great. And I do have repeaters, and I was able to practice and figure out how to use repeaters for the GMRS. Same with the 50-watt Icom here. This I'm actually able to talk about 30 miles, but again, it's limited. You know, I've got to have a clear line of sight. Trying to get to a repeater up in Flint that's about 20 miles away, that's sketchy. I may have to go to the top of the hill. And again, how are you going to know that unless you get to practice? So one of the things I was talking about, you know, these only being 23 bucks. This is the original Baofeng UV-5R. Great little radio, it works. $23, $30. You can get extra batteries. You can get a couple of these so you can have a group of people work with them. These I think would be perfect for the off-roading, trail riding, that kind of thing. But if you're just going to use it like around your house for emergencies, I think one of the most important things is the antenna. So you can see here I've got different types of antennas set up. Not really set up, but you can use this little dongle. And I'd recommend getting a dongle like this, which will screw into the top of these smaller ham radios, these handhelds, and now they can connect to the end of these mag mounts. So I went and I selected these two, this GMRS mobile unit that I can put in the truck, and the 70 centimeter, the Icom, so that they both will use, I can put a mag mount on the car, and you can see this is a shorter antenna. This is for GMRS with an NMO mount. I can just pull that off and put the 2 meter 70 centimeter on there. So I can use the same mag mount, same cables, and connect. I can actually connect these radios to these different types of antennas. You can see here I've got, I guess they call this a cactus tree antenna. I made this. You can see it's a little rough, but I've got the connections here. It works great. I've got the coax tied to it in the back, and those I can use with these antennas or with those handhelds, and I can use it with this 2 meter 70 centimeter. That size for 2 meter 70 centimeter actually works pretty good. I've gotten 30 plus miles with that on this. Haven't talked much about this guy down here. This is an HF radio. Let me get a little closer. I'll have to change sides because there's an airplane coming. But that's an HF radio, and that's a whole nother ball game of understanding how antennas work. SWR, you know, you can burn up the radio, and I think I did damage that. That's my dad's old radio, but I think I burned that up because I didn't have the proper length antenna on. So depending on which frequencies you use, those antennas change drastically, and there's a lot of practice needed to use that guy in the end. So other thing, you know, like I said, the antenna's the most. So you can see I've been playing with a lot of antennas. This is a 2 meter 70 centimeter log periodic, and this I'm still working on trying to get simplex to Mr. Portie's house. I give him one of these Baofengs so he can sit and listen, and I'm trying different locations, trying to get different types of hills and looking at contour maps to use the 50-watt Icom here, so I can hit directly back and forth with him, and he can listen, tell me if he hits or if I can hit. So I can use that, hit repeaters that are 30 miles away, and he can hear me off repeaters, but I'm trying to use that for simplex, just taking you know, another variable out of the equation, because repeaters will have the they might have emergency power, might not have emergency power. What's great about listening to repeaters too, they do nets all the time where they practice. It's not really practice. Sometimes they practice, but other times it's just nets where you call in, but you get to learn how to talk and listen with other people, take turns, proper protocols. So if there is an emergency, you can report. I've heard a couple nets where they're going through and they have spotters for tornado sirens when they test them once a month, and then at the end of that test every month, they do call in and say, yes, this siren's working, which I think is a great thing to listen to and know if that's in your area. So talking about repeaters, how do you find repeaters in your area? So there's two different ways. You research on the internet, you can find them. There's different books for different states that tell you where all the repeaters are and their frequencies and offsets and that kind of thing. Kind of neat tool is on your phone. There's an app called Repeater Book, and that you can either put in your zip code or you can let it know where you're at, and it'll find repeaters in your area. And I just looked before here. I wasn't sure if the repeater book had GMRS, but it does. So you can log in and note GMRS repeaters, and it'll show you the ones in the area, and it'll tell you if you need permission or if they're open. Luckily here in Michigan, you know, where I'm at, I've got a lot of repeaters, and for both 2 meter, 70 centimeter, and GMRS. And also I've used with the TIDRADIO here an app called an Ode Master app. There's just I think that's the H3 Ode Master app that Bluetooths in, and I can go to any location, open up the Ode Master app. It gives me the repeaters in the area, and I can Bluetooth program them in with the offsets, with the call sign names. So that's a general review of each different type of radio, what they're good for, things to think about. You know, I've got this set up because I like using these mag mounts on the car. I actually put a bracket on the front of the car that I can just put this on if I'm using GMRS, put this on if I'm using VHF or UHF. So that's kind of neat. I can switch between both of these radios just by swapping these out. I've got a bracket on the car, but you don't need to do that. These mag mounts work perfect. You just bring them in through a window, you drive, it extends distance. You know, if you're traveling with other people and you want to use a GMRS, and that's one thing, I don't have a 5-watt GMRS. That TIDRADIO is only 2 watts, but I want to get a 5-watt. I think that'd be great for like traveling down to Florida, traveling wherever you're going. You may have 2-3 cars. Through the car and these little whips that you have on, you may only get a mile separation, but I bet down a highway, you put a mag mount outside the car, I bet you could get 2, maybe 3 miles simplex directly with other members in your group. So that'd be something I think I'm going to try, see if that works. So hopefully you like the content. You learn a little bit about different types of radios, things to think about, like having the same setups for the coax cables and power supply for both of these. You can see I've got a bracket on this one yet, and that goes right in the car to the seat mount, and I don't even need to drill for any of that. So I just switch this bracket between the 2 radios, connect, they go right in. I've got the mag mounts if I want to just put a mag mount on top, or you know, I will sit outside and just look at use these, put the mag mount on a metal table out there. So I need to go because I hear a hawk up in the trees and the chickens are out. So I need to go get the chickens in. So hopefully you like the content of the video here. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to Portie's Garage. Thanks for watching.